pledge, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May you please silence your electronic devices. We appreciate it. Good evening. I call the Village of Massena Board of Trustees meeting for March 15, 2016 to order. Roll call, Mr. Offel.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Carville.
Here.
Mr. Richey is excused. Mr. LeBeer.
Here.
I'm here. I do have one revision to the agenda, gentlemen. 6H. 6H will not be acted on tonight. So you can remove that from your agenda. Entertain a motion for the approval of meeting minutes for January 19, 2016. Mr. LeBeer.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carville. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion for approval of meeting minutes for January 26, 2016. Mr. Offel.
Second.
Mr. Carville. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Reports of officers and committees. Treasurer's report. Ms. Sherrill.
I have provided each of you with a balance sheet and revenue expense to budget reports for the month of February. The summary of the 5 major funds is listed on your report. End of year projections for the major funds have been submitted to each of you as well as department managers. The projections contain actual figures through February 29th. Payment on the community center bond was processed in the last warrant. The total amount of the payment was $67,431, consisting of $40,000 in principal and $27,431 in semi-annual interest. The next interest payment is due in September. The balance remaining on this bond is $1,290,000. We have received notice of our next serial bond payment in the amount of $205,000 due to the New York State Environmental Facilities Court for the CSO project. This payment is due on April 22nd. It's a 0% bond, therefore the entire amount goes towards principal. The outstanding balance on this payment will be $1,025,000. On March 4th, we transferred $7,551.64 from the New York Class Creative Playground account to the village's general checking account to cover expenses incurred for the demolition of the Danforth Place playground. During the month of February, the village received $179,327.39 in reimbursement for expenses incurred in the 2013 CDBG grant. And the new assessment amount supplied by the County Real Property Office is $357,149,053, a decrease of $2,679,807 from last year, which is approximately a 0.7% decrease. There's one action item that will appear further down on the agenda to establish a public hearing to override the 2% tax cap levy.
Is the 2.6 a particular property, or is it made up of a bunch of different properties?
It's made up of different properties.
Thank you.
Can you go back to 3? What did you say the balance was on that?
$1,290,000.
205 times 5.
You're
That's
talking
what you showed.
the community center?
I'm sorry?
You were talking the community center?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Committee reports, code enforcement, Mr. Carville, Mr. LeBeer. You're gone, huh? Economic development, Mr. Offel, Mr. LeBeer.
I met with Larry Royston and Tom Sullivan last week regarding the small business environment committee that was set up. Nothing really to report. Still trying to find a big fish in a, or little fish in a big pond. Any kind of fish, I guess. We haven't found anything.
Good.
But we're meeting.
Thanks for that. Fire committee, Mr. Carville. Carl, Mr. LeGard.
I'll be an item later on in the agenda.
Personnel Committee, Mr. Carl, Mr. Shays.
Trustee DeShays and myself sat in on interviews for the police and the fire recently.
Police Committee, Mr. Carl.
I want to do it later on in the agenda, we'll get a couple items.
Recreation Commission, Mr. Shays is not here. Street Committee, Mr. Alford, Mr. LeBeer. Water and Sewer Committee, Mr. Alford, Mr. LeBeer. Initial public comment period. As always, we ask you to please stand, state your name for the record. Initial public comment. Seeing no hands, moving on. Old discussion. A, Massena Housing Authority pilot payment. We've exchanged quite a bit of information on this, as you know. The 2014-2015 pilot payment from the Massena Housing Authority has not been paid. As you know, that's based on basically the overall assessment of their properties. The 2015-2016 was paid. Where we are at this point is an agreement for them to make a monthly payment to us.
What's the, what are the amounts again?
Per month,
Yeah.
500,
So they got a
which
6,000.
is 87 months or 7 years. Big money. Numbers you look at them.
So
Right.
87 months, they owe us $44,000 somewhere.
Oh, I'm sorry, 43,369.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
I know we have a meeting here with them the night that they came, and I thought that what we had talked about with them and what was agreed upon, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but Abby, it came from them that they just needed time. We said, okay, take your time, and, you know, there was never the request made to pay this over 7 to 9 months. I can tell you that. I would have remembered that. What are our options? We want to be good neighbors, but I'd like to be good neighbors to everybody and give everybody 79 months to pay the taxes or their
Absolutely.
We're in a tough spot.
I think they have to respect the spot we're in as well. If the entity that was paying their rent on one of their units said, hey, I'm having a rough year, can I forego the rent for a year? They couldn't do it. Yeah, I mean, we have a responsibility to the village, residents, community members, taxpayers, to make sure we're being good stewards of our responsibilities. So I really think we gotta continue to press that this isn't optional, it's an agreement that they need to live up to.
So the 2015 and 16 is paid in full, they're up to date.
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure they haven't shared with you their cash flow statements or any of that kind of stuff.
They did, yeah.
Oh, they did? They
Yeah.
shared everything? Okay. How much they got in their fund now?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Is it more than 70?
It's not very, I mean, their number, I mean, if you look at their history, I mean, they're
Right.
struggling, their HUD reimbursements have reduced, their vacancy rates are not extreme, but they're higher than they normally are at this point. And I think part of that is, you know, the stigma with public housing, the fact that we have other available housing now in the community, people are choosing that housing as opposed to maybe they would have been pushed toward public housing.
The numbers I looked at, it looked like their vacancy was rebounding in 2015. 2014 was the rough year, but I guess I wonder, they're obviously having revenue issues. Have they addressed on the expense side of things? Because revenue's not going to change. They're going to continue to find themselves in this position. It's a tough spot.
Yeah, you know, I wouldn't mind giving you the authority to go in and top of, you know, a term. But I mean, the term I'd be looking for would be more two years or something like, that's just, you know, thinking off the top of my head right now. I don't have any rhythm for that, 7 to 9 months. last year, it's at 79 months. Why 79? Why not 72 or 84? I mean, that's where I stand on it. I'd like to see it get paid back over a 2-year term. I'd be willing to go to 3, but I don't have any interest in going on forever.
Second, three would be very reasonable, very.
Incredibly reasonable.
Most people by now would shut the water off.
I will keep you apprised of the discussions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know how the rest of you guys feel, but I don't have any problem with, perimeters we're given. Tim can reach something, he doesn't have to bring it, 3 weeks to bring it back to us, You guys okay with that?
Absolutely fine.
New business, new,
So moved.
Mr. O'Leary, second, Mr. Carver, discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Establish a work session dates and times, April 11th, which is a Monday, at 5 p.m., April 12th, which is a Tuesday, at 5 p.m., April 14th, which is a Thursday, at 5 p.m., April 26th, which is a Tuesday, at 5 p.m., April 28th, Thursday, at 5 p.m., if necessary. Entertain a motion to establish those hearings.
So moved.
Mr. Carver, second.
Second.
Mr. O'Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Establish a public hearing to consider authorizing a property tax levy in excess of 2% limit. And that is established in the general municipal law. As you know, section 3C. Hearing would be held April 5th, 2016 at 5:45 p.m. This is just precautionary. We would, as we did last year, we would open the public hearing, have discussion upon it. We don't act upon that. Should we need to override the tax cap, we would then vote on it later on a date when it appeared that we would be able to reduce the budget. But, I'm sure we're pretty comfortable right now with this. So, Mr. Revere, second by Mr. Hoffel. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Proposed resolution to authorize agreement with Fiscal Advisors and Marketing Incorporated. You should have that resolution in front of you.
So moved.
Mr. Hoffel. Second by Mr. Carver. Discussion? Resolution, poll individually. Mr. Hoffel. Mr. Carver.
Aye.
Mr. Revere.
Aye.
Resolution carries. Proposed resolution, the bond resolution for sewer line replacement project. You should have this proposed resolution in front of you. This is for the Parker Avenue, Center Street project that DOT will be doing. Motion by Mr. Revere.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hoffel. Discussion?
Yes, do we have to, now that the state has designed this, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we have to go through the whole thing, or we can't take any part of this out and do it ourselves now? We have to, either all or nothing type deal?
That's where we are at this point, yes. Further discussion? Poll individually. Resolution. Mr. Hoffel?
Aye.
Mr. Carver?
Aye.
Mr. Revere?
Aye.
And I vote yes. This requires 4 votes. Appointment Ian Venier, Contingent Permanent Patrol Sergeant. Chief?
We had interviews last week, and Ian Venier, he has about 5 years of law enforcement. He lateraled from Ogdensburg to Massena. Interviewed very well, and what do? It'd be a permanent contingent permanent spot in regards to the position that's vacant for myself, as I left the sergeant's position. So I would just ask the village to appoint Ian Venier to the contingent permanent position of sergeant.
Entertain a motion. By Mr. Hoffel, second by Mr. Carver. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Appointment Nicholas Belisle, full-time permanent police officer. Chief?
Nicholas Belisle, if hired, he would be replacing the retirement of Joe Brown. He's fully trained. He attended the David Sullivan Law Enforcement Academy, I believe it was 2014. He's currently working part-time with the Norfolk Police Department. So it wouldn't cost the village anything for training. So if he's hired and he passes the medical side of it, he actually comes and can work immediately, which is needed at this time. So I'd ask the village to appoint Nick Belisle to a full-time police officer.
So moved. That was Mr. Revere, second by Mr. Carville. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're skipping H. I, appointment Tyler C. Molina, is that pronounced?
That's correct,
Molina?
Mayor.
Firefighter by fire driver, Foreman McGowan.
We conducted interviews the past number of weeks, so we had great candidates. The thing with Mr. Mulvaney, he actually stood out much more above everybody else. He's actually taken the time and he's completed his professional training on his own, so there's no need to send him to the fire academy. He's already got his credentials. He is also, he has current code training, so he's halfway through his code officer training, but he can do building inspections now, along with his other credentials. He's an EMT, he has hazmat training, water rescue training. He's been working currently for IBM Emergency Controls as a firefighter and EMT. I think he'd be a perfect fit for us. And the cost savings, not having to send him to the academy and just getting him to know our equipment, I think is a nice savings. And I think he would be a great add to our department.
Second by Mr. Revere. Discussion?
Yes. One thing I'd like to do is put one condition on this, hiring this candidate. I feel that, even though he may have been told that this position may not be around right after the negotiations are done, there's a possibility that this could be eliminated. So I would ask that the mayor send him a certified letter informing the candidate that this job maybe maybe a temporary job, and just to make sure that this candidate knows that from this board before he gets started. We tried our best to hold this off until after negotiations. Myself, I felt it's the right way to do it, to make sure that we didn't get somebody here and then not, letting them off after they were here for a short while. I think we owe it to this gentleman to make sure that he's 100%, online of knowing where we're coming from in the hires.
Can I call for a brief executive session and we'll just step out? Sure. So, motion by Mr. Revere, second by Mr.
I'll
Carville.
withdraw my motion first, and then we'll go discuss that.
Okay.
On the item that was
So, that motion was withdrawn?
nested motions, you get writer's cramp down there.
Are you with us?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Revere and second by Mr. Carville to enter an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll be right back, folks. Enter back in regular session. Mr. Offel?
Second.
Second, Mr. Carville. All those in favor? Back in regular session. Entertain a motion for the appointment.
So,
Motion by Mr. Offel. Second by Mr. Carville. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Proposed resolution approved professional service agreement with Twin State Technologies for IT services. You should have the resolution in front of you. Entertain a motion. Mr. Revere.
second.
Second by, I'm sorry,
Second.
Mr. Offel. Discussion?
I guess it was kind of hard to find all the costs on here, because they get it back. Is this their invoice, or is this their proposal?
This is the proposal, yes.
As far as
Yeah.
what goes.
Yeah, we'll have further detail.
Yeah, that's it.
Further discussion? Resolution poll individually. Mr. Alfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Carver?
Aye.
Mr. Levere?
Aye.
Resolution carries. Voucher warrants?
I move that the voucher warrant signed by trustee Shade and myself be approved.
Second.
Second by Mr. Levere. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. You have a couple of monthly reports on the table. Communications correspondence? I have none. Trustees?
Bless you. Bless you.
Pleasure. Closing public comment period?
Joel Gregg at 60 Bridges Avenue. Just one quick question. With the hearing coming up for the budget, when is the proposed budget copies going to be available for the copy of?
I have to present my proposed budget, the mayor's proposed budget, by the 20th to the clerk. She'll receive it on Friday.
Okay, so then anytime after the 20th, then we could stop by and get a copy then?
It will be available, yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
I got a couple questions here, short one. The resolution that you passed for the fire driver, did that include Francis' disclaimer?
It did not.
Okay. Why was Travis Lamar struck from tonight's agenda?
The chief had a conversation with him earlier today. He's considering other employment.
And my final question is the item 6C. Now, I just want to make sure that I understand how this is going to work. You're going to hold the public hearing, and then after you do all your budget work sessions, if you need that tax cap, you'll vote on it. Or if you need the override, you'll vote on it.
Correct.
You're just doing the public hearing so that your T's are crossed and I's are dotted if you need it.
We open the public hearing. We don't take action. We leave the public hearing open. Then if we do need to override the tax cap, the trustees would vote on it. And then we would close the public hearing, then we would vote on it. The way the state law is written, Andy, if we were to vote to override our tax cap, but then we came in under the tax cap, the rebate checks that are available to people in your community would not be available because of that override vote. So it just happens to be the way the state law is written. Probably as clear as mud, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. I think I got a better grasp now. Thank you.
Anything else, folks? Mr. Bean?
Yes, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe we have a new contractual agreement with the fire department. Why is it the board taking a position now that we've already decided, or you have decided, that we're not going to be hiring somebody else, or that that person that gets hired is going to be laid off? What you're doing is bargaining in bad faith, and you've made it public. You were ordered by the court to follow this contract. That's all we're asking to do. Not publicly decide right now whether or not we're having a new, different type of contract. I don't think that's right of what Mr. Carville said.
Thank you, Mr. Bean. Further public comment? We do need an executive session regarding a personnel matter. I do not expect we will take public action. Entertained motion, Mr. Offeld.
Second.
Mr. Carville. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Executive session. Good evening, everyone.